Thank you, Nicole. Okay, can we please welcome Aaron Alba to read his nonfiction piece, Ra-Cha-Cha Indeed. How are you guys doing? Good. Sweet. First, just want to say thank you for being here. The editorial staff, the people that are just showing up to support your friends or your family, it means a lot. And writing is really important to me in my life, and so I'm proud of the other writers. And I know in your head this might seem like, oh, this is not a book. I'm not achieving the goals I want to achieve yet. But just understand, like, this is the first step to that book, or to you being on a stage somewhere. And so I'm proud of you guys. And so I'm gonna read the second half of this, but I'll preface the first half to kind of just fill you in. So one of my roommates has a really loving family. Went over to dinner at his house, and one of my friends and I had a really rough childhood where she grew up with really crappy parents. I grew up in a really abusive home, and so we went over there, and his family was just loving on us, just really taking care of us. We had a sushi night, and it was awesome. And we went out to the fire afterwards, and we sit around the fire, and I just noticed how the good things that they were experiencing, and I was experiencing for maybe one night, I didn't experience as a kid. And so that led me to be bitter and really frustrated. I kept zoning out and going back to this really faint memory of my dad and I in the kitchen when I was a kid. So it jumped back from that moment to me at the fire. So I just want to fill you in, and I'll read the second half. I had finally gotten to the fridge door, and I noticed how silly my dad looked. He had a silk white A-shirt on, and his brown pajama bottoms looked like an old man would be wearing them. He was not quite that old yet, though, but no one would tell him that. The slippers did not help at all, and I just laughed. He smiled big at me and reached for the milk in the fridge. Then he grabbed the Hershey's chocolate syrup, because using anything else is a sin and should never even be thought about. He grabbed 2 glasses and made the perfect clinking sound when they touched. He sat them on our light brown counters. He then poured the milk 3/4 of the way in both of the glasses. Then he went and got teaspoons. You see, there's an art form to making a glass of chocolate milk. I would say mean glass here, but a perfect glass of chocolate milk is not mean. It is a light, chocolatey, smooth hug that tucks you into bed. You may be thinking that I am crazy and it is just chocolate milk. Well, if so, you're wrong, and that's okay. My dad grabbed the syrup, popped off the cap, and filled the teaspoon, which was hovering over the glass. It was almost like slow motion. The teaspoon started to overflow with chocolate, and he then submerged it and stirred. He repeated this process a few times until it got to that even taste and sight. Then we clinked our glasses together and drank 2 of the most perfect glasses of chocolate milk any man had ever seen. His small mouth made a smile that tried to escape his classic 90s goatee, which accompanied his newly acquired chocolate milk mustache. As we sipped our glasses of chocolate gold, I asked him his thoughts on football. His response, as always, was, "You mean the Texas Longhorns? Because they're the only team that matters." I would respond with the defense of our other supposed team, the Dallas Cowboys. To no amusement, he would respond with, "The Cowboys will not be good or even get close to a Super Bowl until Jerry is gone," meaning he's dead. Sound wisdom indeed. Then he would quickly transition into a story regarding his youth. He usually went a little something like, "Okay, well, one night when I was growing up, me and my brothers, your tios, were out having a good time when," and then he would be off on a story regarding fists and family. These 2 things were the highest, in his highest regard, so in turn, they also became in mine. But both paled as close seconds to these late-night chocolate milks. As the stories ended and the milk stashes grew larger, my dad and I stood there in the middle of the kitchen and laughed together about literally nothing. And as I went to clink my glass again, because I felt fancy, I heard a thundering chime. This time the chime was louder and knocked me out of this memory, like someone abruptly waking you up in bed with the clashes of pots and pans. I shot my head up into no surprise. Not much had changed. These people were still there, my friend's family. They sat and shared stories about their week. The daughter updated her parents on rides she would need in the coming weeks for her extracurricular activities. My roommate Alex shared stories of his life in his new apartment with me and the rest of the guys we lived with. Our other friend and I just basked in the glory of what a good family actually looked like. We both recognized and whispered to each other how stark the difference was between this and the usual family dinners we had growing up. Now, the longer the conversation had gone on, the less we shared horror stories. As I re-entered the conversation for the last needed time, I truly started to enjoy the moment more than I had before. However, there was another moment from a long ago that I realized that I ended up enjoying even more. There's something small that my dad used to do. I almost forgot it as if it was an immaculate piece of a distant memory. Every late night with the fridge open, he would rub his stomach, looking for something to drink, and as soon as he found it and took his first sip, he would say, "Ra-cha-cha-cha." It always puzzled me, and I never knew what it meant, but it was something he said, and it was his. It was ours. And while I sat there making conversation surrounded by a big family that did not have to, but did, with a full stomach and fire burning in front of me, and with everything right in the moment, instead of being angry about what was not, what I did not have, I smiled at what I did. I had this moment, and I had that moment with my dad. My dad in his slippers, pajamas and all, with his hand on his stomach, rubbing his belly, looking for his next tasty glass of chocolate milk. With him, taking his initial sips and saying the same silly phrase every time. I remembered all those nights of chocolate milk. I remembered all those small moments where he did not try to have an agenda. He was just there, even if he was just being goofy and it made me laugh. My dad was just there. Through all of my anger sitting by that fire with that family, I made it much more difficult than it had to be. And I almost missed it. I almost missed him. I almost missed how good of a dad he was because I always took the time to look at the dad he was not. How refreshing and truly warming that thought was. Ra-cha-cha-cha indeed. Ra-cha-cha-cha indeed.